So last night, I finally got to check out the very well received horror film, It Follows. It came out last year and it got a wide release just recently here. So I checked it out with some buddies. I was just so excited to check this movie out. I love horror films, and I love a movie that that's ambitious and tries to do something new to the genre. And I just kept hearing good things about this movie, so I came into this with high expectations, and I gotta be honest, this movie did not disappoint. I loved this movie. This is easily the best film I've seen so far this year, and one of the best horror films I've seen in quite a while. I probably haven't had this much fun watching a horror movie in the theaters since maybe the Evil Dead remake or The Conjuring maybe. But this movie is just flowing with creativity, and it has a great grasp on being memorably scary and visually creepy. There are a couple jump scares, but what I loved about this movie was that it did a great job building up the anticipation and building up the suspense and its subtlety, and I loved it. It was so creepy and atmospheric. I loved the synth-based score for the movie. Very old school, very John Carpenter. Love it. I love any movie that has like an 80s style synth-based soundtrack, and this movie was one of them. And it takes such a simple premise, but one that is yet still very creative, and it just runs with it wonderfully. And it has very fun and memorable characters. There's a lot of funny moments, intentionally funny moments. There's a lot of great dark humor in this movie, as any good horror film should have. Any good horror film will have some comedy in it. If your horror movie has no comedic relief whatsoever, then you're just taking your movie way too seriously. And this movie knows how to do that. It knows how to do it well without it throwing off the tone. It still remains consistently creepy and suspenseful. And what I love too is even though it has a very, very simple plot, there's still just so much that's open to interpretation. You could easily analyze the little details in this movie, the little things that you see in the background, the little drops of dialogue that the friends say to each other during the film. You could just discuss this with your friends after the movie, like, what do you think this meant? What do you think that meant? There's so much subtext going on in this movie, but it's done well. It's not done in this kind of pretentious, ignorant way. It's done in a fun, creative, and ambitious way. Overall, it just did a fantastic job referencing classics while still being original and thoughtful. And we need more horror movies like this. We need more movies like this in general, but we really need more horror movies like this today. Something that, I'm not saying it's the most original film of all time, because by no means it isn't the most original film of all time, but it does have a lot of creativity to it, and it's a very influential film, in my opinion. It got me wanting to watch more horror films. The last horror film I saw in the theaters prior to this was The Lazarus Effect, and that made me not want to go to the theaters for a while because I hated it so much. This movie just got me pumped up. I loved it. Are there things about the film I don't like? Well, again, it's not a perfect movie. There is no such thing as a perfect movie. I will say it does have a very abrupt ending, and I kind of get it. I'm not the biggest fan of movies that kind of just end like that. They just literally just end abruptly, but it was still overall done pretty well, so I really can't complain about that. Would that be the ending that I would have chosen for that movie? No, but again, I don't think I really wouldn't say it hurt the movie necessarily. But I really can't think of anything that at least off the top of my head, that I strongly disliked. I can see this being a movie that a lot of people are going to hate. It's very weird. It's kind of out there. And like I said, it is very simplistic. So I can see people kind of nitpicking this movie apart and saying it's overrated and blah, blah, blah. I feel like this movie's going to get kind of Blair Witch treatment. You either love it or you hate it. For me, dude, I loved It Follows. I give it an A. Again, best film I've seen so far this year, and one of the best horror films I've seen in a long time.